My name is Rand Vollmer, and I am the owner of a little company called Salsa Aviation, or San Antonio Light Sport Aircraft. I've got partners in Texas, different places in Florida, and also in Tennessee. We cover the southeast for Pipistrel, USA. And Pipistrel is a Slovenian company, and I learned about Pipistrel back when I was still in the Army. They started in the 80s. Built their first fixed-wing aircraft early 90s, which was actually this model here, the Sinus, or Sinus as they call it. I went to a Sun and Fun air show and I saw the motor glider for the first time. Always wanted to fly, got my license back in 1972. I'm 67 now. I spent a career in the Army. I'm a retired Army colonel. And when I came back to Florida, I lived in Germany for almost 20 years. When I came back to Florida, my wife and I actually started the business full speed. Initially, I started it with a partner in Texas. Back in Florida, we expanded the territory, ordered an extra demonstrator aircraft, and went into the business of selling touring motor gliders. It took me about a year before I got my CFI glider. And I've been a CFI glider now for almost 8 years. I got my license when I was still in college. Didn't get a chance to fly a lot, it was just too expensive. But when I learned of the concept of the motor glider that burned 2 or 3 gallons an hour and went faster than a lot of airplanes, went farther than a lot of airplanes, and flew without the engine on, and was a heck of a lot more fun to fly than most airplanes, I really got the bug. And so now in my retirement, this is more than a hobby, but it's certainly something that I love to do, and I do it because it's fun, because I believe in the product, and I enjoy flight instruction. Took on Pipistrel in 2010. Started the business a couple years before that, but actually had an opportunity to become Pipistrel dealer in 2010. In general, it's a Slovenian company, and they have now 3 factories. One huge 60,000 square foot factory in Italy, about 20 miles from the main Slovenian factory. Ivo Baskarol is the owner and founder of the company. I believe they're up to about 150 employees now, and make about a dozen aircraft a month. We've got one called the Alpha Trainer, which is an airplane. Actually, we sold one recently that we sold as a glider. Most of Pipistrel's business is selling gliders, and I'll backtrack a little bit there. The gliders are important because it's a huge market that hasn't been untapped so far. It gives you the flexibility of an airplane, the economy of a glider, and the ability to go long distances on very little fuel. My wife and I have done a couple trips to the what they call the Caribbean Air Rally. First year, 2016, we had 34 aircraft, and we beat half of them to the first stop because we didn't need to make a fuel stop. We went nonstop from Fort Lauderdale Executive to Grand Turk, where our first day was. But the Caribbean Air Rally has put on half the people who go are Canadians, the other half are Americans. We had so much fun in 2016, we went again this year. This year we went all the way down to Tobago, which is almost to the Venezuelan coast. But the aircraft gets close to 40 miles to the gallon as far as fuel efficiency. We flew high enough so that we could always glide to land. We never would have gotten wet had we run out of fuel or had an engine problem, which we didn't have. But anyway, the things you can do with a motor glider, from cross country that you can do just like any airplane. This holds 80 pounds of baggage, full fuel. Full fuel will give you 7 hours of endurance at normal cruise, 9 to 10 hours at economy cruise. In a training environment, you'd be looking at 2.5 gallons an hour. Some of the time would be with the engine off, some of it would be climbing out, but on average, 2 to 2.5 gallons an hour is what you're going to burn in training mode. And so you're looking at auto fuel, ethanol-free auto fuel, which right now is running about $3.10, $3.15 a gallon. So cheaper than avgas. It's easy to load up. I've got a special little crank, and I can fill up both tanks in about 15 minutes just from a 15-gallon gas fuel can. We got 24.5 gallons of usable fuel in the aircraft. That's an upgrade, but everybody in the U.S., or almost everybody, gets the larger tank. You can get a 13.5 gallon tank, but for a long cross country, the extra fuel comes in handy. In still air, normal cruise, you're looking at about 700 nautical miles. At economy cruise, you're looking closer to 900 nautical miles. The Virus and the Sinus both come standard with a tail wheel. 90% of our sales are with the nose wheel.
Because of the LSA?
Well, no, you can have an LSA tail wheel. It just, for me, most people would rather have the nose wheel. Some purists and some people who are a little more macho than I am want the challenge of a tail wheel, and it is more challenging. I would say if I can average a pilot in 18 to 22 hours of training in a nose wheel like this, which is about the amount of training that it takes, I would say it would be 30 to 35 hours at least to do the same private pilot glider rating in a tailwheel aircraft. The nose wheel is about a $2,000 option, and it adds about 15 pounds or so, or 20 pounds to the weight of the aircraft. So the tailwheel is a little lighter, a little more efficient. The speeds are essentially the same. Neither the parachute nor the air brakes are standard on the Virus SW, the short wing. The air brakes are standard on the standard Virus and the Sinus, which this is. You really do need the air brakes, even somebody who buys the Virus SW. I always recommend the air brakes. It just makes landing on a shorter field much easier. These aircraft are so clean that when you get down in ground effect without the air brakes, you'll float more than halfway down the runway before you can get the wheels down. I've trained more than 60 pilots in the last 6 years or so that I've been a flight instructor. I love what I do. I hate it in the summertime. It's just too dang hot now. The high wing helps a little bit, but it's still too hot in Florida to enjoy training in the summer. But I do train other people other than people who are going to be buying. Although what I found is that just like Cessna found when they started training back in the 50s, people would buy what they learned to fly. And a lot of my customers have come from people who just wanted to get the rating. They fell in love with the aircraft. They felt good with it. It does just what you tell it to do. It's very responsive. I won't say it's easy to fly. In fact, it probably requires more finesse than most any plane I've flown, but it also makes you a really good pilot because the controls are so precise. You can literally land on one wheel in a crosswind and hold it on one wheel with the wing a foot off the ground to correct for the crosswind. It's a fun aircraft. It's well made, and we didn't have a. Do you have a camera on the wingtip?
Yeah, we do.
It's possible. You may be able to look at the film, and if you look at the views that come from the wingtip, you can see the underside of the wing. It's like a mirror. You can read the lettering on the side of the aircraft on the underside of the wing. The quality at Pipistrel is unmatched. Annual inspection for this is mostly the Rotax motor, and the Rotax, including the aircraft, can normally be done in 8 to 10 hours of total time to do a very thorough annual inspection. So if you're looking at $90 an hour for your mechanic, then you're looking at about $800 a year for your annual inspection. If you're a light sport repairman, you can do it yourself. Now the prices, if you get them the way most people get them configured, are in the $140,000 to $160,000 range. That would be a glass panel, a Dynon. Typically, a lot of people get leather interiors. I highly recommend the Behringer brakes. They come with Behringers or standard brakes. I like the Behringers. They seem to hold up really well. The Dynon Skyview is the system they use most of the time. You can get Garmin systems if you want. Dynon's a little less money, a little lighter in weight, which is always a good thing. But the Dynon, you can hook an autopilot up to it for the cost of the servos. So it's a very cost-effective way to outfit an aircraft. Best place to go to is our Pipistrel USA website. There's several. There's one from Slovenia as well, but the Pipistrel website is www.pipistrel-usa.com. So Pipistrel is Pipistrel-USA.com.